In spite of posting some of the world's most impressive growth rate, Africa remains largely under-industrialized and many of its citizens economically poor. The visiting International Labour Organization's Regional Director for Africa, Aeneas Chuma, however, believes Africa's young and vibrant population holds the key to future progress.
I think it's obvious that Africa is a very young population. And as I mentioned, this can only be looked at positively as a tremendous resource that can be mobilized to support African development. They need to be provided with skills, and they have to be relevant skills to the needs of the industrialization process.
Part of the visiting ILO boss's objective is to spread the message on the need to have labor-friendly migration policy. He did just that during talks with Nigeria's Labour Minister, Emeka Wogu.
Have a society where peaceful, stable, and harmonious industrial relations persist, safe and decent work guaranteed,
putting in place relevant policies including the labour, migration and child labour policies and action plan, development of National Action Plan on Employment Creation, NAPEC, which has been adopted as a working document by the Nigerian Planning Commission of Nigeria.
The ILO boss also expressed worry over what next to do when the Millennium Development Goals (MDG) deadline expires in 2015, as most African countries have fallen short of the target. Abulu Osemahu, AIT News, Abuja.
Okay, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. I think it's obvious that Africa is a very young population. And as I mentioned, this can only be looked at positively as a tremendous resource that can be mobilized to support African development. They need to be provided with skills, and they have to be relevant skills to the needs of the industrialization process. I think that's quite important, and that is quite well recognized by the by the leadership, not just in Nigeria but across Africa. The challenge, as I mentioned, is how to implement. Now, migration is an issue in Africa, and it has largely been an issue around refugee going forward, and continuously trying to create an environment that promotes entrepreneurship and investment. And I'm not just talking about foreign investment, I'm talking about domestic investment, and because this is how we're going to create wealth, and this is how we're going to create jobs. And so I think the political will is there. I think there is an tremendous sincerity in going forward. These are challenging issues, naturally, and ultimately the test is in implementation. Having the institutional capacity to carry through all these excellent plans and initiatives and strategies. I think that is required. You need the institutional capacities to implement and go forward, but also a capacity to learn as we implement, because plans are never perfect. They have to be modified during it, to be thought through. It has to be structured. It has to be balanced. But on the other hand, you cannot continuously protect inefficiency, going forward. I think the smart protection essentially also has to be time-bound. And in the process, you encourage people to rise the challenge of producing high-quality goods, that can be traded, that the consumers can find, and accept relatively. So there's no contradiction here. The challenge is to just ensure that it's a managed process, looking at the need to industrialize, need to nurture indigenous industries, particularly where there is value addition of natural resources, and going forward, so that Africa should be able to export high-value manufactured products, or products where value has been ended, so that we should, in a way, stop exporting coffee beans. We should be exporting coffee. Encouraged. People should always reflect and retool themselves and reinvent themselves, and remain relevant.
Thank you. Any more questions? No? Okay. Measures or arrangements which PAS will facilitate. Thank you much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Coming.